Cage, 15 days until the test starts. Of course, the Ashes series we've all been waiting for. Greg Chappell has come out. He's back. Hussey. So we assume now that Mike Hussey's good to go, Cage.
Well, you're probably right, General. I think what the approach will be from the selectors will be they'll go to the Gabba with the first test and go with people like Hussey and North. And I think they'll have Callum, Fergusson and Khawaja sort of sitting in the wings. But I reckon they'll go in with what they've been playing with. The thing that really has got up my nose, General, and I've got to be very strong about this, the Australian press, they have attacked the Australian cricket side like you wouldn't believe. Now, I'd be the first to admit that their form isn't what the Australian side would like it to be, but the continual reference about the future of Ponting as captain, whether Michael Clarke is the right man to take over, and the thing that has annoyed me is the rumour and innuendos that people keep raising through the media that there's a disharmony within the Australian cricket team. Now, that's been vehemently denied by Clarke, by the players, by our captain Ricky Ponting. The Australian press should get off it and support the Australian team for the Ashes. It's been disgraceful.
I agree with you, Cage. There's not much more the players can do. They've all come out and said there isn't a problem. Mike Hussey even asked to hold a press conference to get on the front foot and say that it's not a problem.
Good point.
So, Cage, it'd be like me saying, you know what it's like? You throw a little bit of mud and you hope that some sticks. So I come to you and say, I was talking to Rob Chapman. He reckons that if Neil Craig doesn't win the premiership, that Craigie's gone and Stephen Trigg's job's in jeopardy, and Triggy and Craigie aren't getting on too well at the moment. Now, someone runs with that, and then suddenly it's got legs to it. You say, there's no truth to it at all.
No.
And that appears to be what's happened here with the cricketers.
Well, it's like a bloody bushfire. Look, this normally happens when the England team comes here. Normally it's the English press, but the Australian press have been, quite frankly, disgraceful. And you're right, Hussey came out and called a press conference. Ricky Ponting got angry in Tasmania being asked the same question. Get off it and talk about cricket.
You would think, Cage, once they've said there's not a problem,
there
isn't a problem. Now, even if there is a problem, they've said there's not a problem, they're not going to change their statement. So right now, though, so many of them have said there isn't a problem, then clearly there isn't a problem. I'm with you, move on. Andrew Hilditch, Cage, he came out and said that he thinks England are stronger this series than they were in the series in London in the Ashes? Yeah,
they probably are, although I'm still not convinced about their attack. Graham Swan, their spinner, is a class act, no question, but I still don't know. The query for me is whether England has the firepower to take 20 test wickets to win a test match. I'm not convinced they have. I'm not convinced that Alistair Cook at the top of the order is the way to go. His form recently in England was disappointing. He's come here, he's missed out against WA. More pressure on Andrew Strauss, the captain, to fire. So, hey, there's a lot of question marks about England as well.
All right, the English spinners traditionally don't spin well out here, Cage, so they might be in trouble with that as well.
Well, look, he's a class act, Graham Swan, probably the most improved spinner in world cricket, but off spinners out here find it difficult to get the turn that they do in England. It's normally the wrist spinner on Australian conditions where you get not just the turn, but you get the bounce as well. So look, and he'll bowl well to the left-handers, to North and Hussey, coming from their blind side on leg side. He'll bowl well to them, but hey, it's going to be an intriguing test series, but hey, don't write Australia off.
All right, I'm with you, Cage. While we're on the spinners, they're not going to go with the 4 quicks. It doesn't look like 4 quicks get the nod, so 3 quicks and a spinner, Horrocks or Smith.
Well, you'd go for Horrocks. As I said, I reckon they'll go with the tried and trusted team that they had previously. I don't think young Smith is quite there at the moment. I think they'll go with Horrocks. They'll play 3 quicks. They'll use Watson as well as the 4th quick if they want it up at the Gabba, and I reckon that's the way they'll go.
All right, the Redbacks, of course, Cage here playing against England. Well, if Callum Fergusson can get a century, and then he gets a century the following with the A team.
Well,
what do they do, Cage?
Well, that's a very good point.
Look, they squeeze him in?
Well, gentlemen, if he gets a ton in the tour match against England, then he's thrown his name right at the feet of the selectors, because you can do no more than score runs. He made 100 against WA. If he gets 100 against a tour match, I tell you what, there's every reason to pick the young man. Look, there's no doubt he is a test player. No doubt about that. Peter George, of course, also, who went to India. He'll be tested against the pump. If he does well, his name's around the mark, because Siddle and Bollinger's injured. Siddle hasn't bowled well, so hey, it's up for grabs, I'm telling you.
All right, we know Harris has taken a couple of wickets already, Cage. So we'd like to see the Rhino get in there, wouldn't we? We'd like to see him get in. Now, Greater Western Sydney, Cage, they've shifted their target just a little bit and moved it over to Geelong. Jimmy Bartell is on the radar. How are Geelong travelling at the moment?
Well, I've said this from day one. The concessions given to both the Gold Coast and Greater Western Sydney are an absolute bloody joke. Now, if Greater Western Sydney, if the rumours are right that they're going to target Jimmy Bartell, if they lose him, they've already lost Gary Ablett Jr., they've already lost their coach. Geelong are stuffed. Now, they don't deserve that through virtually no fault of their own. It's because of the rules that the AFL have brought in and the AFL teams that they can give the Gold Coast and Greater Western Sydney the right to walk in and say, I want you.
Yeah, well, look, it's money that's doing
well,
it,
isn't it?
I mean, we know they lost, you mentioned it, Ablett Jr.'s gone, of course.
Good money.
Cash-strapped Gold Coast. Greater Western Sydney got plenty of cash. Bartell, they're saying, Cage, is on about 400,000 a season. Has been for the last couple of seasons.
He'll get double that from Greater Western Sydney.
Well, Geelong are in a tough spot. 12 All-Australians still on the Geelong squad, so they can't up the money too much more. So he is in a prime position to get snapped up by the Greater Western Sydney.
So Geelong have got no chance of holding. If Jimmy Bartell is approached by Greater Western Sydney, is offered double what Geelong are paying at the moment, you wouldn't blame the kid for walking. He's got to look out for his future. But what does that say to the Geelong Football Club? You stuffed.
So thanks for bringing up some good players to try and strengthen the league. Now, here's some other ones that are on the radar. Reportedly, these are the ones that Greater Western Sydney are targeting. Kevin Sheedy hasn't denied it either. He said, we're having a look at Mitch Clark from Brisbane. We'd like to talk to him.
Can play.
Frio's Reece Palmer. We'd like to have a chat with Nick Natanui from the West Coast. Scott Pendlebury or Dane Swan from Collingwood. Now, Dane Swan's name's been mentioned more than once.
He'll go.
And we've said before, different name, different place. But gee, it looks like Ablett and the Gold Coast when you talk Swan and Greater Western Sydney.
He'll go. The interesting one is Nick Natanui. Now, if he goes because of money and leaves the West Coast Eagles, West Coast Eagles have put a lot of time and effort into producing Nick to get him up to speed with AFL football, and suddenly in comes the Greater Western Sydney saying, I'll take that, bloke. Thank you very much.
Well, Coach, you know what it does show? The two richest clubs probably are Collingwood and the West Coast.
Exactly.
And two of their best players could be gone to the Greater Western Sydney. It shows you what money can do,
well,
doesn't it?
It shows you that those concessions given to those two sides, I'll say it like the cows come home, bloody ridiculous.